Holy crap. So we had a group. Say hi, group.
Hi.
Some over here.
Wait a second, look there.
Scully heavy group, but we had a group.
Andrew's here too.
Andrew's here.
Andrew.
All the friends are here. Kerry's here. Frank's here.
Haircut.
We just watched the first episode of The Toys That Made Us. If you're not familiar with The Toys That Made Us, it's like a documentary on Netflix about the toys that we grew up with. And when I say we, I guess they're kind of pointing at the pop culture generation, kids of baby boomers, probably starting with Gen X. But it's also for younger kids because they did Star Wars, and who doesn't play with Star Wars toys, right? Like everybody to my 4-year-old nephew
Mormons
gets Star Wars toys. I bet there's even some Mormons and some Amish that whittle some Chewbacca's. But we are going to talk about this episode. I just want to say, wow, it was pretty stellar. But I was going to go back over to you, but whatever you want to do.
All right.
Here, you got something to say?
No.
No, you sure? Seemed like you had something you wanted to say.
I want it to be more than just your face the entire hour.
Oh, it's going to be. Don't worry. So, this started with Star Wars toys. Who here owns Star Wars toys? Or has owned Star Wars toys? All right, so
that's all.
Basically, every single one of us. All right.
I don't think it was basically. I think it was all of us.
And I think it's a universal question.
I think it's more than
I think
one.
you could take a poll across the country, and I would be willing to go 80-90% of everybody in this country.
Boys, girls.
Yeah, from 77 to today, somebody owned a
Star Wars
Leia,
something.
Star Wars something.
Yeah.
Merchandising and
Yeah. The film mentioned that you could take all the plastic and be higher than the Chewbacca, bigger than the Empire State Building. That's a lot of damage.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
That's bigger than most Gundams in Japan. The episode touched on first of all, the deal that they had for the toys. They didn't know that the movie was going to be so successful. And this is kind of well-known Star Wars lore,
But the
right?
percentage wasn't known, Justin.
No, that was actually surprising.
No, that was news to me.
I
I
always
always
got
thought.
the old big lightsaber, really.
Yeah, I always thought that I always thought Luke's cut was much bigger, and he got the toy deals or whatever. But 22 cents, 2.5 cents for every $1.
Yeah. I thought he got the lion's share. I always thought he got the lion's share. I thought that was the...
Tell them what it said so they know what we're talking
So you should watch the episode in case you didn't watch. Lucas made a deal. Lucasfilm and Fox, I believe, made a deal with Kenner, who was like a fledgling toy company, especially in the action figure genre, right?
In Cincinnati, of all things.
Right. Well, everybody else turned them down. And the deal was that Lucasfilm and Kenner would split 5% of the take for the for what out of 100% of what the toys made. So 95% Kenner got to keep, and of course they had to pay all the they had salaries and had to pay for production and all that stuff. But they were still probably left with a hefty. It obviously built their company, right?
Right.
I'm really surprised that they were able to be bought later on by Hasbro.
Well, it was at the end times.
Yeah. When they were, it was
The dark
like they said
times.
during the dark times.
And make no bones about it. Think about the amount of product that was made. George made out pretty well. I mean, it was just
Even at 2 cents.
even at 2 cents of $1 billion is still I'll take it. I mean,
Probably won't turn it down.
They didn't touch on Power of the Force at all.
That's the only thing about this documentary that bugged me. They didn't talk about Power of the Force, droids, or Ewoks.
they left out some stuff.
They left out
and
some
I think
of
that was time constraints.
Yeah, of course.
I would assume it was so cool.
It was a little too deep, I guess, minutia, but they did talk about obviously rocket firing Fett.
Well, that seems to be the myth, the man, the legend. I mean, and what they didn't mention is there's actually other figures that are becoming or more desirable,
which we've got a
which
few of.
we're going to talk
Linda,
about
pass
later.
those down a little bit.
Well, they didn't say he was the rarest. They said he was the most sought after, and I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would venture to say that the Vinyl Cape Jawa's right up there. He's a legend.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And
Well, he was production, though, right?
Yeah, but and that's another thing. I think a lot of people would have more affection towards a production. I know I do. This idea that it was made and it's a prototype.
That you could play with it.
Yeah, like I played with Jawas, I never knew that the vinyl cape existed as a kid. I just stripped mine anyway, and took the cover off.
Did you cut your sock?
No, that's a reference.
I
to
hadn't
the
heard
show.
that story before, and it's
I'm going to
so
talk and
charming.
assume that whoever's watching this watched the show. If not, go back and watch it, then watch this
If you
again.
haven't watched it,
Yeah.
go watch it. It's
It's a
awesome.
treat. It's a
Yeah.
treat.
It's neat.
There's some really cool behind the scenes stories of people that worked at Kenner during the whole creation of the toy line.
And it really, really, really kind of, it's the beginning of, and it's the same feeling of what we do here. I got to say, when they were saying, they're selling toys to kids and all these memories are tied to them, I was like, well, without that, we don't exist.
Choked up that I was
Same.
getting choked up.
Exactly the same. I know.
I was getting choked up listening to them.
Yeah.
Because
Me
they
too.
were so
Yeah, what I liked
emotional.
about this is that it really it humanized, the guys that were working behind the scenes, and especially Akuda. His opinions were so cool.
Yeah.
To hear
They
him
were.
talk about how much toys matter to him. So the toys didn't just make us; they made them too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It's without a doubt.
Did you learn anything you didn't know?
I did not know the whole deal with George Lucas, the 2.5 cents. I really thought that he was making more money the entire time. I can't believe up until The Phantom Menace he was only making 2 cents. And again, it's a lot of money in the long run, but I had no clue.
Yeah. Anything you didn't know?
Yeah, I was honestly was the very last thing that they said in the show, that Lucas refused to be interviewed. I feel like in some ways he's detaching himself completely from the history of the magic. Why wouldn't he want to be interviewed for is he just so
Devil's advocate.
I think he's over it.
Plus,
Devil's advocate. He, to be fair, I think he's always been a little thin-skinned. But I think the other thing is that, to be fair, there's a sizable amount of people who I think he perceives want to tear him down and want to associate a negative perception with. Remember, he thinks anyone who doesn't like the prequels are bullies.
Well, okay.
So,
my point is, then get on an interview, and it was very clear what they were going to interview him about.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen his perspective on the toys.
They did kind of slag on the prequels though, because the toy sales were tied to those prequels.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he might have thought that they were going to do a biased narrative.
Yeah,
from the start.
and
Because all the salesmen during the toys were like, we were going to make this many Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, to be
All the
fair,
toy designers were like,
the
oh my
creators of the
God.
show can't control what those salesmen are going to say.
But I also bet that whatever questions they asked about it, they probably had to send George Lucas an idea of what they were going to be
And that
asking.
would have been cool.
If they're
yeah.
good journalists, yeah.
Right? So he probably read it was going to be prequel related and was like, nah, I'm not going to answer these
I think that's just
questions.
so much conjecture. Then fix it. Say, look, man, I thought that he seems to not want to. I would have liked to have seen him do some. It seems like
He
he's
doesn't
just
wanna own
walked
up.
away from the
You know,
product.
I
that
think-
he
He doesn't wanna
created.
own
I
up.
think he probably gets a million requests from all kinds of things. He's not going to know that this Netflix showing is going to watch it or care. He probably gets requests from all kinds of people for all kinds of interviews.
The only
probably
people
says
he
no.
really does is are the John Stewarts or the Charlie Roses of the world.
Yeah.
Those are the only people he does any.
Well, I got to tell you,
Not
What-
Charlie
what
Rose
did they
anymore.
say?
Not anymore. I said
Yeah,
$4.5 billion.
I know that he does give interviews to Fox.
4.05
Okay.
billion.
He flew out in a real Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to continue asking if there's anything what you learned on this
Yeah.
episode, but I have to say that the episode was more than just some nerdy thing about you know what I mean? Well produced. I think anyone can watch this and it's interesting.
And
Yeah.
feel
Right?
something.
I
Yes.
remember when
Oh,
I first read this on one of the Transformer sites I frequent. It was in forever ago, and that was my first gut reaction. It's it's going to be a pop culture-y,
Puff piece. Yes.
Exactly. But the editing was smart. The comedy didn't seem like joke,
Forced,
forced,
Yeah.
everything
so
about it was
genuine.
so genuine and smart. These are clearly guys who understand. It honestly reminded me of early days G4.
creeping me out with the gloves.
Oh.
What am I going to, Andrew? What am I going to say? What am I about to
They're going to
say?
say that it's better than The Last Jedi.
So,
It's
at
better than the
least
last
I didn't say it.
No tomatoes here.
So,
Genre. It's a different.
No, it's a better.
So,
Lost it.
Irish. Anything? I mean, I know you've collected Star Wars toys. I know you know about them. Anything in this episode you were like, that was just really interesting.
delicious.
Just about the early production of the early figures. I mean, just the things they had to throw together in 6 months. Nobody would take that deal. They had 6
That's
months
amazing.
to produce all that, and why they just restuck stickers on every piece of merchandise that's out there, and the amount of merchandising that goes into this, like to realize that this is never going to end. The amount of money that is in the merchandising is just such a mega force.
Where the real money for
everything really is.
It's funny.
It's just going to progress and continue because it's just such a well-oiled money-making.
It's funny when you talk about that because toys to us are toys. They're like an innocent thing we have when we're kids. There's no, we're kids. It's innocent. Toys are such an innocent thing. And then this guy drops a binder of a contract to be able to make and sell toys. And it kind of like takes the innocence out of toys a little bit when you know that much goes into it.
I agree with you, but also when we see Akuda talking about how it made him feel to be part of it.
For 50 years.
It takes it back.
Oh, sure. It didn't ruin it all. Yeah. It was actually, those guys loved what they were doing, man.
It definitely brings the heart back into it.
Yes. It's all money behind it. Yes.
Make or break money. It's that. The other thing that you saw, I think that was really informative, is you saw how naive or new, even then, toy marketing was in that sense. Like, in other words, you saw where they were when they made the contract, the initial sale. Star Wars, an unproved entity, a lifetime contract, all this stuff. In general, I just think it shows where if that's where toy production and marketing was, we as a whole were in a different place. Now everything has literally become, how do we market it? How do we sell
Star Wars invented that. Yes. Oh.
It was those big. Then Mouse owns it all.
Well, no, wait.
I know. It's getting bigger.
Yeah.
I don't mean to get political, but it's just the fact Reagan deregulated stuff in the it's again. I'm not trying to get political.
It's not political.
He cut. You could now advertise products with
directly to children. We're going to get into that when we get into G.I. Joe. Star Wars predates that, first of all. But that is G.I. Joe and He-Man and Transformers are directly from that. Directly. I think they deregulated that because they saw the potential of toy lines.
Yeah, and then we also see that what you're saying does apply to those other lines.
Those lines.
But Star Wars was different. There was T-shirts, there was suspenders, there was sneakers, there was all, and again, we had never seen anything
it was
like that.
the first thing like that kind of pop culture, social, everyone. Like you said, 95% of people have Star Wars items.
It was a phenomenon.
It's a phenomenon. It was the first thing like that.
And the other thing that's very, very unique to Star Wars, even today, is it was you see all these action figures and comics, Batman, Spider-Man, they had a lot of their if not all of their origins are comic books. And then they went to the movies and then they sold merchandise. Star Wars went in reverse. Star Wars was a hit movie that went to merchandising.
Right. They also said it was the only toy line for a movie.
Right.
That did well. Yeah.
All of us, as whether you go back to 77 or 2017, it's the action figures. Mm-hmm. It is unlike any other toy line.
Hey, Jay, say hi to Jay. Everybody say hi to Jay.
Hey, Jay!
Wait, Justin, you were talking about stuff we didn't know before? And
I'm always getting to you. Yes. It is your turn, so.
All right, great. No, the wooden Millennium Falcon.
How cool is that?
I've never seen that before.
So
I saw the sock Jawa before. I had never seen the carved Millennium Falcon
machine shop.
So that's how they did the mold, I guess, is they would,
crazy.
Nowadays they get a computer and they work it all out, all the mathematics. So now, back then they had to carve what they molded, right?
Yeah.
So the original Millennium Falcon was made of mahogany mold.
Crazy.
Which is and it was really nice looking. Like, can you imagine having that in your living room?
I want it on the mantle. Totally.
I know.
I'd be happy with like the plate that was the ramp to go up it.
Yeah. One of the struts.
Yeah, one of the struts.
What's that ball worth?
Ball. The wooden ball.
So insider notes for you. There's a little ball, if any of you remember, that come with the Millennium Falcon. I did Pinky, if anybody gets that. There's a little training ball, the thing that Luke trains with, and it comes with the Millennium Falcon. I will. And that's like the most sought after piece. Just like with any other toys, the little things get lost first, so everybody lost that stupid ball. And I wonder if there's like the mold for that ball is like some sort of mahogany, tiny little ball.
Mahogany, wow.
Sheridan, as not to point too big a point on it, but as the youngest here, who hasn't been around the Star Wars toy universe as long as we have, but obviously it's been around your entire childhood.
Yes, it has.
You've seen it on shelves, if not,
I remember playing with a little Boba Fett figure, and actually playing around with different Star Wars figures when I was little. So I kind of have a fondness for Boba Fett because of that.
Awesome. So, watching this documentary, Tell me your thoughts on seeing the history.
I thought it was fascinating. Honestly, I loved seeing the pieces of artwork and seeing the molds and how the development of the figures came along. I think that was very fascinating.
Very, very cool. So the Scullys have some Star Wars stories going on anyway. Hopefully we get to some Christmas stories, but Linda?
Yes.
Anything you took away from this episode?
Well, like I very much appreciated the heart, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
Watching them get so emotional about what the toys meant to them as they were building this line really tore at me. The one thing they didn't talk about, maybe this was something I'm making up, you guys will know better than I do. Was there a time when there was like a cereal company and you could send in box tops and get like a free Star Wars figure?
Oh yeah, in the 90s.
Because I feel like I did that.
You did. For the band.
Post, was it?
It was 95
Green Ben, Force Ghost Ben. Yeah. I think it was.
Yes.
It was General Mills.
Yeah.
It was General Mills, I think.
Yeah, and you got the whole band. They came with all the parts.
Because
for the band.
I remember doing that for this.
Oh yeah.
That was Frito-Lay.
That was Frito-Lay. One of them.
That was Frito-Lay.
One was a cereal. One was Frito. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
So they'll probably talk about this in the He-Man one. I think one of the most famous mail-away things like that. There's a Wonder Bread He-Man, and they have to talk about that.
Well, yeah.
It's real, man, but there are so many fakes out there.
And that's it. So they
Oh, his belt's
Yeah,
different.
there's a few little.
Yeah.
He's got Zodak's chest.
Yes.
Oh, are we talking about Wonder Bread He-Man?
Yeah. We started talking about mail-aways.
Boba Fett, that was pre-production firing Boba Fett from around in the market.
Huh?
Was there a handful? What was there?
Oh, thank God. More.
Right.
Well, it's
Meaningful.
All right.
Yeah.
And for me,
Video crapped out for some reason. I don't know why, but we're back. And Mandy was talking about you don't really collect Star Wars figures.
No, but I do collect other things, and I do have not preference. You got me saying that. I do appreciate the prototypes, like the progenitor for the figures and for the vehicles, anything that come out, because it's the artistic craftsmanship that goes into these childhood makers. I mean, this is a lifestyle. And that's what it is.
No doubt about it, man.
We live it.
We live it, So that, I think I have it's just amazing to see what went into all of this. And it's what started this. So I don't know. I think that I took away, I didn't know the 2.5 thing for them. I didn't know about Kenner. I was really, really interesting. So
when you say this, and I know exactly what you mean, she means this.
Yes,
she means what we do here is directly because of, and I would have to say Star Wars.
Star Wars and
I
the
mean,
comics.
yeah,
The comic characters. They are the driving force. Mask will come and go. He-Man will come and go. They ebb and they flow, but Star Wars is forever. It's almost
not specifically the toys going forever though, but like the fact that they began this whole pop culture collecting action figure thing.
without a doubt.
Right? And so even if Star Wars goes away, there'll still be something to collect, but Star Wars inspired all the other
I
lines.
really just don't. Does anybody feel it go away?
No.
Again, it's almost religious, just. I mean,
and
they
they kind of mentioned that at the end there. The gentleman who's a professor who teaches the class about it mentioned that we have a tangible thing that represents an intangible thing, a movie, an idea. You can't really hold that in your hand. Yeah. Much like you wear a cross because it represents your faith. This represents the faith of
or what you're into.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's a really beautiful thing to connect it to as well. Like he did bring up the whole sports fans and there's a tangible human you're watching do things.
We are all the same. People, the sports fans look down on the toy people, and the toy people look down on they're nerds, and it's exactly the same.
Exactly.
If you could tell me LeBron James stats from 2 years ago, and I could tell you, how many Boba Fett's there are, it's the exact same thing.
Or where to pick up a keyboard.
Right.
But it's not looked down upon anymore like it was.
Not now.
No.
It is so mainstream.
Well, you used to hide it.
The amount of women that were attracted to me because I was a Star Wars fan.
Oh yeah, they lined up in high school.
I had to beat them off with a lightsaber.
laser sword.
But I do think that there's like a weird cultural trade-off now. Because now I think instead of people snubbing your nose on you for being a nerd, I think people, if you're meeting someone for the first time and you go, I'm a toy collector, I feel like because of stuff like Big Bang Theory and other things, they'll instantly have an idea, like they'll make a stereotype.
Oh yeah, well it's like those memes where what I do, what my mom thinks I do, what I yes.
So that's the trick. You know, what we can do is now acceptable in larger
society. We're all dumb monkeys. We're all going to stereotype things in our own ways.
It's definitely become more mainstream.
Yes.
With things like the Marvel movies and Disney buying Star Wars.
Or Big Bang.
It not become mainstream. It is the mainstream. Yeah.
You almost want to push back the other way and say, I don't collect anything.
Right.
I mean, there are
so it's
people
almost
who do that.
You'd be hip. Yeah, exactly. Counterculture.
And by of course I mean Neil Gaiman. You know, when he was writing American Gods, he defined worship as whatever you put your time into, which is what we've been touching at various. You know, so it's like
no sexy time there.
no, well, I mean, look, if you for anyone watching or reading American Gods, there's the character of Bilquis who kind of plays into what you're talking about right there. So
you had to go down there, right?
Yeah, right?
I'm just throwing him a bone.
No.
That's what I was doing for now. And nobody can see. It's on him anyway. So. Yes, it is after dark. Fireside chat.
He made the label.
So Scully, having seen this,
Yes, indeed.
Opinions.
What were you? What did you take away from this? Well,
You know what? There's three things that immediately stick out in my mind. What was the Golden Gut with his fist on the desk, saying, "How big does this?" And that's what he does. And then
God, he changed my life
With his sausage fingers.
I've been told.
Snap decision.
which would have been a great Star Wars name for a figure. Sausage
He was a cantina denizen.
He was one of the unmade fun. Oh my God! Didn't they make a parody film with Edward Scissorhands like that?
Yes.
I know it does.
Guys, rein it in.
Oh, you started it.
I love the
I was being
reenactment.
clever.
I thought it was so cool when you see the actors go in.
Yes.
There was a guy, I forget the gentleman's name. It was
Jim Swearingen.
What he said. It's just a reenactment of him going into
Production.
production. It wasn't Lucasfilm yet, but he's going
Bunch
on
of
there.
college kids.
And they're showing him the blueprints. These are what it's going to be. Here's the here's the pirate ship, the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh,
Yeah.
that was
awesome.
cool.
Yeah,
That was
super
awesome
cool.
moment.
Can you imagine having that? Be able to tell that story?
What would you say, Frank?
Can you
So,
imagine?
I wanna be
Like
that
our
one.
stories are. I remember the first time I saw the toy. Can you imagine being a guy and be like, man, I got to go on.
And that's,
See the
and that's
Falcon.
exactly my third thing, and then I'm going to shut up.
No,
The idea that what was the name of this again?
The
Toys that made us.
It's not just the toys that made us; it's the toys that made them.
Yeah, and it felt that way. It was
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
It was great.
And that's the beautiful difference. It's not like you were saying, Andrew. The idea that it's not pandering to some goofy little marketplace.
Stereotype.
No, this is deep stuff.
It is.
I highly recommend it.
What are we? So when I first heard they were doing this, we were kind of in the industry. We know people, a couple people that were interviewed for this, and I heard the name of what they were doing, right? And I was like, it's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
But
Now it's
boy, do I get it, because what are we if not our childhoods? And our childhoods were the toys that we played with.
Can I also say one more thing? This is
Brenda Mossentoff is watching.
Oh.
Hey, Brandy, what's up?
I want to say
Happy Christmas.
really quick to so Justin and I seem to have similar apprehensions when we first heard about it. Another thing is I think it was marketed very poorly, because if you're someone like me who reads the press releases and stuff, the language they use made it sound like something that I would want. It's see from the it's
to me this seems like something that could be on mainstream TV and everyone could enjoy.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't ready for that. I thought it was going to be like some really
production.
yeah.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite parts was actually the opening sequence.
Yeah.
Where it shows a little girl and a little boy going into Toys R Us in the 80s and looking at all the stuff, and the girl grabs a Barbie and the guy grabs not a G.I. Joe, he grabs a Star Wars figure, and they run off, and then the girl has the Barbie on her desk. And she's grown up now.
Oh!
And it's
dude, that hits us right in our feels, man.
It's a business Barbie, and she's a businesswoman. And then it goes to the boy who's now an astronaut with his Star Wars figure.
I didn't get that. It's what we do. Oh my God! I wish I didn't have to charge for these things, man.
I know. Well, there's look.
Nostalgia is a powerful drug.
We long for the days of yesteryear, especially as we I watched Johnny Carson and Come to Tears. I watched it with my grandfather, and there's Dean Martin comes on toasted, and Johnny's smoking a cigarette, and I can remember that episode.
Sure.
So if that's happening with a TV show, the idea that I played with toys for hours. Now, the one thing I do think that needs to be said, where it's different for you guys, younger generations, than it is for your dad or your mom and I. It tends to be the people that have such an affection for this. They really just love this. Toys were a big part of their life. A lot of stuff was going on in my life personally, and I used toys as an escape.
Yes.
Sure.
So there's a lot of stuff going on with my mom and my dad, and it was the 70s and all this.
Yep.
And yet I could grab Luke Skywalker and a bag of toys and go out in the woods, and we played with them.
And you're in the
know,
battle.
and all that stuff was gone.
You're in the battle mode vendor.
Right.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was your case, but I think I ran into a guy that I grew up with, and he said, this is a few years ago at the Wawa right here in Buna, and he goes, Frank, it's so weird, man. He goes, that you're selling toys, because I remember you being the toy kid.
Aww.
Look, my room was, we used to scare the hell out of my brother by putting a cardboard Chewie in the bathtub.
I touched base on that in the film. He said, kids, while they were thinking about marketing, no matter how bad their day was, they could still come home.
Yeah. So that was for me really, girls could go get their Barbie, and, maybe they weren't living in the best of circumstances. And
it was really obvious that Dave Okada really cares about
passionate
kids and things, and you can tell he's a nostalgic person. He reenacted his Jawa sock thing.
That was awesome.
Man with sexy toes.
He didn't have to do that, but he did it.
Not so much.
There's a website for that.
Yeah,
it was great. It was really good.
There's more than one website for that.
Oh my gosh! Penelope and I are awful in a room together. But
all right, were toys a big part of your life?
Oh yeah,
you collecting that part of it.
So we didn't have a lot of money. You know this. We didn't have a lot of money
this is
when I was
great.
a kid. We didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid, so my mom would make a lot of stuff, and she would make the things that we wanted. Like my sister to this day, she wanted an AT-AT so bad. My sister was huge into Star Wars.
Right. I wish she was here. Selena would have loved
She would never have gotten
No, right. We heard her.
Yeah, but she was hugely into Star Wars, and having grown up with those toys, she's older than me. So I was born in '79.
Right. Yeah.
I was born in '79. So growing up with those toys around me, I was always into Star Wars. But my mom would make. She made her an AT-AT out of.
Really cool.
Is so great. She made her an AT-AT out of spaghetti boxes or something. I don't even know. It never had legs. She could never figure out how to do the legs.
But it was an AT-AT.
But it was a freaking. She's to this day she has it.
Wow. Still has it.
It's got her little Velcro. It's got
I've seen it.
Awesome.
She made her a Jabba the Hutt out of like an old stocking. My mother was a doll maker.
Right. Okay.
So the year the Cabbage Kids, I'm getting off topic.
No.
The year the
the connection.
The year the Cabbage Patch Kids came out, and everybody it was the Furby. It was the Hatchimal. It was unreal.
Phenomenal. It was.
She made dolls, and when people couldn't get Cabbage Patches, they would come to her, and she would sculpture dolls.
Wow.
Same little head. They would come with a little birth certificate and all their little rattles and everything. And she made that year. We had a real Christmas. We had actual toys that you could buy in the store.
Because
not
she
that
sold so many of those dolls.
She made like $2,000, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Even today,
it's a lot of money now. Let alone
Exactly.
then. Yeah.
She made Your Christmas Story with your gift to the Magi. That was her.
Yeah. Wow.
She was a dirty bootlegger.
Some KO. Some KO Cabbage Patch.
Jersey Proud.
Jersey KO.
These were not like Lettuce Patch Kids or anything. They were just her own thing. They all had names.
Tobacco Patch.
But that year, we had real toys, But I have
the toys that made us.
She had
there you
had this
go.
She had not an Endor, Dagobah playset my mom made out of paper mache.
Wow.
I had a My Little Pony castle made completely out of paper mache.
And it worked because your imagination went there.
I have more. So a few years ago, Justin bought me the actual toy.
Yours was better.
I loved it.
You can't put $1 on
But
emotion.
I think Mom made a special.
No, you can't.
It's long been trashed, of course. It was made out of paper.
Yeah.
We moved once and it got thrown out.
It was done. Yeah.
But to this day, I think about that toy and I think about what it meant more to me because she made it and she
Sure.
had to make it.
What's funny as a kid, you probably didn't think that, but as you got
As
older,
a kid, it was, dude, it had a
That's not
drawbridge.
McDonald's.
No.
Yeah.
It had a drawbridge that went up and down. I could take the top off and all my ponies fit inside of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was cooler than the real one. No
See,
offense, I
this
love
is
it.
off topic too, but this reminded me. So when I was a kid, I broke one of my G.I. Joe's legs. I said to my dad, I was like, can you fix his leg? My dad was like, well, can't fix his leg, but I can fix him. And he came back with a little wooden crutch that he made for the I don't have any more of my G.I. Joes, but I still have one G.I. Joe, and he's got that crutch, and he sits on my computer desk.
awesome story. So you got a toy? You got a toy?
Penelope an applause.
My mom.
This led me to a great question. Give me a specific childhood toy story.
Well, here's again, you go back to your personal life. My dad and mom, how they fixed why I had so many toys was what was ever going on with them. My dad was always like, "Here, I'll get you a toy. I'll get you a toy." So I had a lot of toys because it was a way to keep me away from whatever was going on. But one of the things that the toys that I just wish I could have had, and you could see it was like what your mom did. And in some ways, I'm like, wow, I wish I would have known my mom used to get these things, McCall's books. McCall was a book for women.
Yes.
And inside one of them, and I know it had to be about 80 because it was Empire, some mom had taken styrofoam and built Hoth.
Nice.
Yeah, for her child. Out of the trench was there, and then there was they had a picture of the Kenner on this thing, and I remember just looking at this and going, well, my mom would buy it or my dad would buy it, but they couldn't take the time, and I actually looked at the picture and would pretend I was playing in it with the toys.
Well, the pictures.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
And let me tell you about pictures and catalogs. So some of those Sears catalogs, you know how many toys? They were brilliant because they sold the toys. Jude, tell me those G.I. Joe pictures.
Oh, you dreamed about the toy, right? You dreamed about
those
with it.
model kids and those toys look like they were having the greatest times of their lives, man. All those little rich white children.
I know.
Sears catalog, JCPenney, you'd go right to
Montgomery
the
Ward's.
Montgomery Ward, dude.
See?
So Tiffany Phillips says she has a Batman that her dog chewed the leg off of, and he has a crutch too.
That's awesome. Brenda's still on?
I think so. I can't tell.
Hey, it didn't stop Batgirl, right?
It did. Right. Andy
So,
wait. So toy. You got a toy?
Frank. I'm not Frank. I have a few Frank stories because Frank has known me since I was 12, and so
I'll do an impersonation. I'm coming in.
No, don't do it every time. No, but
it's the greatest place in the world.
Anyway. Yes. So Frank was actually responsible for helping form a lot of my great. I guess I wasn't a child at 12, but I don't know. But there's one in particular that I always remember.
I'd love to hear.
My mom, you know this one. My mom was going off to her best friend lives in Puerto Rico, and she was taking my older sister and my youngest sister, and it was just going to be the three of them. And I really wanted to go, but my oldest sister was like, "It's a girls' trip."
Right. This is when Puerto Rico had electric.
Oh my gosh, Frank!
No, go ahead.
The opinions expressed by Frank are not.
You wouldn't go that trip right now.
So I was like, oh my god!
Right.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I was really.
I said that quietly on purpose.
I was kind of hurt that you didn't get to go, but that's like a whole other thing. But like, I ended up having a great time with my brother, and like it was us alone. But the important thing was, they were leaving like the 27th or the 26th, so I still had the Christmas with her. So like that Christmas was like a big deal because it was like the last time I was going to see my mom for like a week and some change. There was at the time the Collect and Connect camo, the DC character. He's like a big green thing with like golden.
DCU.
Yeah, DCU. The Build-A-Figure for the DCU was like the camo character. That wave was new though, so like the individual figures weren't like in circulation in our area, so she couldn't get the carded figures. But Frank had the Collect and Connect figure. So like I'm like all Mom
Scalped it? Like where'd you find it?
I went. It was hot. You couldn't find it.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
I was on a mission.
It was a big deal, and I let my mom know it was a big deal, and she realized it was a big deal. And Frank's like, don't worry, I won't let. It's like.
Was it for sale or was it on hold?
It was on sale, but then it became on hold for me. This was like for me. We come in. Wait, so you remember the story?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we come in like the following week, and it's gone. And Frank goes like, "Oh, Julian sold it by accident.
It got sold, man.
I'm so sorry.
But it wasn't. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I'm like crushed, and it's like what? And
he was upset.
I basically tell my mom like, "Well, okay, fine. You don't have to get camo, but like, get the Imperiax wave. Do you mind getting?" And she's like, "I'll get the whole wave." So it's like I'm like, "Oh, okay. So it's not camo, but it's still a really really good build figure." So Christmas rolls around. The Imperiax wave, I get the Imperiax, and then she's like, actually, there's one more thing. And then so she comes in.
She pulled a BB gun Christmas story.
That's a Red Rider.
Yeah, the old. What's in that in the corner over there?
Yeah, and there's camo. And so I had camo while my mom was in Puerto Rico.
And it made him feel better. Right?
It did. It really
still
did.
hasn't.
He
doesn't sell anything.
I don't.
Ever.
We'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I have like probably over like 1,000 or 2,000 figures.
It's his philosophy is I don't care what it's worth.
No.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I'll die with it.
I sold like 4 figures.
Yeah. I regretted it. I think.
Wait till you meet some girl and those figures are gone.
She's got twice as many figures as you.
She does, yeah. Go for a pop collector or something. I don't know. But no, yeah. So that was my like.
It's an awesome. Yeah.
And like honestly, I don't. Yeah, it's like Penelope with your mom and Kerry with his dad. I have my mom. It connects me to mom and Frank.
Camo connects you to that.
To you guys.
It's kind of like with you with your Falcon.
Well, wait, we're getting over there.
Well, no, I just said, like honestly, I could name you like 9 other stories just like that because like that's just how long
you
I
grew up and it's a toy store.
Alex, no,
I didn't want to say it.
Alex said they need one piece to make camo. I guess they have a camo.
Which piece? I'll tell them how hard it is.
What piece is it?
If it's like Wildcat, them some piece of
it's the Bane. It's the Bane. Alex, I'm not sure if you're a boy or girl. I can't tell by your picture. It looks like Jedi. A Jedi. It looks like X-wing Luke. The picture. I can't tell. But anyway, Alex, boy or girl. It's the bane of their existence.
Oh man, it's a great figure. I'm sorry.
Sheridan.
Yeah.
Got any memorable toy
stories?
Oh wow. One thing I used to do as a kid was I used to get my old broken laptop, which was a netbook at the time, and get a bunch of my toys, which were very mangled because they were hand-me-downs a lot of the time. So what I would do is that I would make
user.
Well, they were old.
No,
they
I know this
hard. This was
right. Sid from Toy Story.
But
the things I used to do to my bar.
What is she saying? She said they're old. Like how?
Okay. From Catherine, some from Dad, some just I got for Christmas, stuff like that. So. What I would do is I would make these little movies with them on my computer and stuff like that.
On my computer,
yeah,
wow.
I would like voice them and make these little movies.
Still motion, stop motion?
Yeah, I did both.
Wrong generation.
Yeah. We had a Polaroid. We thought that was the best thing ever.
I did stop motion. I actually would occasionally move them with my hand, and you'd actually see the hand inside the film. And I made these weird little stories.
That's awesome.
So I'm very fond of it because, I have a very big fondness for a bunch of old toys that I still have because they would fill a lot of my time.
Sure. Well, you did what you had technology when you were young to bring that imagination really to fruition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're in the backyards. Yeah. God, oh my God! God, if I was your age. Oh, the things I would have done.
Justin, to your credit, you made your famous display.
Well, we'll get to me.
I like how they're your famous display.
They were. No, there was everybody took part. It wasn't just me making those dioramas. There wasn't.
Do you see the space?
Yeah. Penelope did most of it. I just took the credit. Mandy.
All right, I'm more of the gamer.
Fine. It's the same idea.
Okay, but I do have a minor toy one, so I'll go with that first, make it easy. I remember back in the old house, you and me used to have those figure wars. And he would get out all the little 3 1/4 inch ones, and I would get my Lara Croft, and I would get my
Your dad is just cool.
I know.
I come over and have figure war.
I'll bring Cam out.
We'd be Star Wars versus Pokemon versus Tomb Raider versus Resident Evil. Notice that there's a lot of game ones.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And then
That's what the links went this.
and then for games, it's really my childhood was digital because of games.
Sure, I like this perspective actually.
Okay, so that's what formed me. I had toys, but I didn't play with them.
Right.
The PlayStation and the we had the Genesis, but I don't remember the Genesis. Yeah.
A lot of Sonic. Yeah, a lot of Sonic.
Sonic. And Spider-Man.
Love Sonic. Are you
So what
kidding
did
me?
you get for Christmas this year?
I did get a PlayStation 1 and the nostalgia.
I wonder where you got that from.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know it was tested.
Spyro 3?
Oh my god. So I saw it and I cried.
That's
I
awesome.
was, I'm like, oh my god, it's my childhood.
Yeah.
I'm holding it in my hands.
Yeah, it's funny.
I love the PS4 and I love Steam and I have most of the games on emulation.
It's not the same.
But it's having the physical
Yep.
thing in your hand to
Yep.
say, oh my god.
That's exactly.
Mandy, if anybody understands, we do. Believe me.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So those are my 2 stories.
That's awesome.
I love the
It's funny.
figure battles.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did that all
We
the
used
time.
rocks.
Wait,
No, really, we used rocks, and the last guy standing won.
There you go.
So literally, we would crush each other's action figures.
It's funny to think about.
It was wonderful.
It was
It's funny to think about the generations now coming up that it's a lot more digital.
Yes.
You know, a lot of your time isn't spent
The wheel keeps turning,
digging
man.
holes in the outside. It's
doing it
spent-
on the digital front.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Yeah.
doing Minecraft.
Sorry. One of the most popular toy lines right now is Skylanders.
I was about to bring that up. Yeah.
Still, no, not still. They came and went.
No, they're
It's going down, but it's still there.
They're
Yeah.
still coming out with new games.
Brilliant idea.
Holy
Yeah.
shit! Concocted by Satan himself.
No doubt, because it's a video game and you have to collect toys, and you really have to literally collect them
Yeah.
to unlock
It's
things in the
basically-
game.
It's basically tangible DLC.
Dude, if they
Wow.
even to this day, if they make one that's G.I. Joe, I mean Disney did it with Infinity, right?
Yeah. Don't go very long though. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I was shocked that they pulled the plug.
Yeah, me too. Because
Really?
they could have really. I mean,
Lego, right? Dimensions has
Legos,
toys that go with it.
That's still a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people who collect things that never really exist. This find a Pokemon or whatever.
holy
it is.
shit! Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's. I mean,
We know people.
we're
I
in a
saw
digital
Flash.
currency.
I could actually do it right now.
Yeah.
Actually.
Bro, oh, you
Yeah, I might
Pokemon?
know
Yeah, we do.
So,
So there you go.
is it nature or nurture? Do all these lines create collectors in us, or do we have the innate desire to collect inside of
There's
us?
a hunter-gatherer thing.
It
There's
wasn't
definitely a hunter-gatherer.
Oh, I was
thing.
gonna say, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that there's a natural inclination to collect things that are comforting. It
Yeah.
builds up. It builds home. I mean, we're
Secure- yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We're certainly living in an age where that shit's nurtured.
My mother said to give Kerry a beer. I guess you look like you need a beer back there.
Want a Corona?
Mom, we'll get right on that.
Back to 20,000 years ago, having a seashell belt. That
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or a pearl. Or
We're keeping trophies
It's
from
human
hunts.
DNA. Yeah. Predator.
Predator.
I want your ears.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Exactly. We're like you slayed the mammoth, and now you have it. It's neat.
I brought Carrie's beer.
We didn't want it, but we
It's that
brought
more
it.
sinister side of
That's
ancient history,
human.
though.
That's
I think
human
it's just in
nature.
basic human nature.
Yeah, and then now here's another darker side of that. Do we collect things because they make us feel comfortable, but they also take our mind off of other things
I think
that
I
are
was
not
just about
so.
to.
Oh, yeah.
I was just about to.
You know what I mean?
That's
I mean,
definitely
now
a thing.
I think I don't know.
But you can
now-
translate that into anything. Like
You can.
every
Yeah.
night under the car hood, working on
Well, exactly,
Absolutely.
but nobody would have thought of it as being. I collect Transformer. We know in this business we've watched people, and I've said it in it's a toy store, and it'll happen here where you'll see a guy come in
Right.
and he'll start buying and buying, and he's trying to fill this hole, and he's trying to do this. And I've said to people, you're going to cause a lot of stress in your family because you're going over
Bored.
now it's an obsession, not a collection.
Yeah.
And
there's a point where it gets out of control for you.
And here's the
been
thing.
there myself.
Yeah, been there. And what we tend to do is if you look at the people that are that over the board with it, it's in our DNA and personality. Mm-hmm. Anything you do like that. Yeah. So it's very easy to get caught up in.
A lot of collectors we see are like kind of on the spectrum.
Yes.
Us included. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's like, so what's nice about Andrew, I don't sell it, I don't care. I open it up, it's loose, I play with it. That's really kind of like the middle ground where you want to be. You don't want to be that guy who, I mean, listen, we're going to show you in a few minutes why some of this stuff is so expensive. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely absurd on some levels. The amount of money.
No doubt about it.
Right? I mean, it really is.
You could feed an Ethiopian village for a year with this guy right here, a piece of plastic.
And you bring up a very good point. At what point does our collection own us? As a
Oh, yeah. People, you have to ask yourself that question a lot.
The toys that own us.
Dude, they didn't get into that in this.
Yeah.
You know, they talked about these, they talked about our childhoods and nostalgia, which is strong, but they didn't talk about that obsessive.
Well, that's maybe a negative thing, and they're trying to keep this.
Well, everything has its positive and negative.
We don't even have to go that sinister with it. You know, this is a documentation series. You know, so it's more so. It's more so about the history behind it, as opposed to
although the guy did liken it to religion. I mean, they are getting a little deeper with the aspect of collecting, which is good that they're doing.
Kerry just said and I remember I was collecting Migos, and my girlfriend at the time said, "Do you want to go to dinner?" And I said, "No, I need the money to get this next Migo." So I was starting to put time and
I know the thinking dinner's $50. That's
a new Batman figure,
Right.
And like Penelope and Justin and Kerry would go on road trips and buy stuff, and that's healthy. We're going out to Pennsylvania, and if we find something cool, that's great. But when you start going to, I'm not going to spend time with somebody I love so that I can buy my Batman.
Yeah,
that's some bad
priorities
stuff.
Frank, you keep talking about the way I collect. I've always said if I absolutely had to get rid of every single toy that I own, I would.
Well, that's different than I. There's things what I'm trying to say is that collector obsession. I'll bet you.
Amanda Lynn says hi.
We'll start to see.
That's Mandy, my cousin.
Oh, okay.
People who have problems with beer.
Mandy, should we get him a beer?
Anyway, I think that's something we should discuss later.
Yeah, we will. There's 3 more episodes of this. I think I still need to get Linda and the Toy Stories. So when we first started the store, and I'm going to do this. We are going to do this. There's so many ideas when we're opening the store, but we want to do a thing called the Collector's Confessional.
TM, copyright.
TM, yes. Where we're going to set up a what's it called? What are we going to set up?
We're going to set up like a tablet or some sort of video recorder. And what we're going to do is we're going to invite collectors, customers, friends to come in and talk about either their purchase maybe they just made, or the prized possession, something from their collection they really like. So just come in and just tell us about it. Tell us about their
push a button, go live, and just talk about the thing you just bought, or the thing you love.
Yeah.
Just because we like people's stories, and we over this Christmas we've been tagged a lot with a lot of fantastic stories of people opening.
Stories about people getting gifts, kids of all ages, I like to say, receiving gifts that were important to them for whatever reason.
A 9-year-old daughter of a lifelong friend of mine who is now collecting Transformers and sharing that with her father and mother, and just like they said she screamed when she opened. It wasn't even a scary toy,
no.
But it just moves us. It made our Christmas amazing this year. Our Christmas has always been amazing because we spoil each other, and we've always spoiled my daughter. My daughter's getting older. We don't have the money to spoil each other like usual, but the fact that we're seeing these Christmases that we've played this tiny little part in, it moves us and makes it so way rewarding, and so rewarding. I wish we didn't have to charge. I actually feel bad.
Real quick, I don't want to bring up Christmas. My daughter made me a Star Wars blanket for Christmas.
wow.
It's the best gift that I could have got. First of all, it's long enough for my feet. And second, the fact that she took the time to make me a Star Wars blanket. It's funny how it's not about the money. It's about the time and effort.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best gifts.
Yeah.
Like I said with my mom's stuff.
The crutch, your mom's stuff.
Same thing,
Yeah, absolutely.
Linda Scully,
Yes.
give us a toy story.
Well,
You've had plenty of time to think.
when I was 4 years old, my dad was one of his jobs. He was a part-time DJ, so he decided I needed a Sears record player.
Oh my
And it
God,
was
he
in a
lugged
white-
around records.
It was a white plastic, and when you opened it up, it was orange inside.
Yeah.
Right.
70s mod.
So yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that Christmas, I got the record player, and I also got a couple of like little 45s. And one of them was like Alice in Wonderland. Another one was Wizard of Oz.
Did they have the storybooks that
It was
went along?
Yeah, little
Yeah.
storybooks.
Mhm.
So we used to play it, and me and my friends used to act it out. So like I would stand.
We
on
are
top of the
so
storm.
doing that here in the store.
Yeah, and you'd be in
Look, they didn't know
the
that.
eye of the storm, and we'd jump off of the toy chest, and we were like flailing around, and it was the best and stupidest thing.
That's
ever.
awesome.
That
But it
explains,
was so much.
that explains why you're so involved with drama now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next Christmas, record player. Taking notes.
Like there was the tacky
Wizard of Oz.
Take this down, Randy. Get this
Oh, we.
So yeah, so that was
I love
a
it.
huge part of my
I can
life.
picture it. I bet the record skipped sometimes when you guys would jump around
Oh,
over
oh
it.
my god!
Yeah.
And we were on the second floor, and my dad would yell up at
Yeah.
us. He'd be like, "No,
Are you in Wonderland again? Get out of Oz and back in here.
So then he really quickly introduced me to regular 45s.
Yeah.
And then I bought my first 45 at Bradley's. It was Elton John and Kiki D. Don't Go Breaking My Heart.
Don't go breaking my heart. Yeah.
But that was my toy.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
That's
That's
a great
really
story,
awesome.
man. That's right there with the crutch.
Yeah.
George of the Clan Scully,
Okay.
give us a toy story.
All right. Okay. Let me just. Okay. This happened.
You had 40 minutes to think about
This Christmas.
Oh, that's a great one.
As it turns out, years ago, kids, family, my wife, didn't have the money for Christmas, and I had a Star Wars collection, and it was it embodied everything you see here. Basically, it was my childhood condensed. Was basically what it was, and we needed money, and I sold the collection so that my girls could have Christmas, and which is what you do. You know, you're a dad, and at the end of the day, as much as this is wonderful, it's material things.
Sure.
It's plastic, and that's what you tell yourself.
True.
Yeah.
That's what dads do.
But
Right.
you know what though? I mean, it was more important because you know, I
You
mean,
wanted them to have a good Christmas.
you want your family to have a Christmas. So,
Sure. To have Christmases like you had.
exactly.
Yes.
So you know what? It served me well. It's going to serve somebody else. It went to somebody who it didn't serve at all. It was, but it's enough of that.
Frank.
No.
No,
I'm
it wasn't
kidding.
me.
I'm kidding.
It
I'm
was
kidding.
certainly not Frank.
I did give you 10% more.
Well, I sold it for like a third of possibly less than what it was worth. But
Could have been worse.
could have been worse. But you know what?
Kids had a Christmas.
Kids had a Christmas. You know, it's what you do. And Christmas morning, 2017, just so happens that, and they'll fill you in on this better than I can, but I opened up an Empire Strikes Back Millennium Falcon
Yay!
From 1980.
in 1980. Possibly 79.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a hunk of plastic, but it's also holds in its bays my childhood, and it blew my mind. And
Unexpected, I assume.
you know,
It's not just a piece of junk.
It's not just a
Yeah,
piece of
he
chocolate.
reclaimed a piece of his childhood.
I'm crying. I'm really crying.
It's a physical embodiment.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, exactly.
I don't remember you coming in and being like, yeah, I really love something like that. Like he never.
No,
That's not how he functions.
that's
not
not
like
how
that.
it works. That's not how his mind works.
It's hey, I had my time.
Wow.
So I thought.
Ay ay ay.
Yeah, and you know what's really weird, man? Like when you think
Dry your eyes.
Falcon, with that story, that Falcon is beyond. Because it's
more
now it's yours, but now the story is actually more than the Falcon.
Yeah.
It has, yeah.
My
You
daughter
know?
and my wife and no small part you guys
Yeah.
too.
Oh my god.
Thank you.
I did it all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I did the picture, I did the Falcon, all of it. I did it all.
No, seriously.
And you're so humble.
That's you.
And the diorama. Don't forget the diorama.
So horrible.
You can't miss the irony in the fact that you sold your original collection
For Christmas.
for
For
your
Christmas.
children's Christmas.
Right.
Yes.
And now your children have come back together.
I mean,
If
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
If
that's
one of
what
us-
we on a TV
if one of
show.
us would just write a child's book out of this,
Everyone.
Go for it.
we're good. Like we're
Full
gonna.
circle, man.
That is a children's book waiting for Rankin Bass to make a story of.
To get to the Magi Justin, they were closed before then. And both had
God
DreamWorks
bless
and
us,
Warner Brothers.
everyone. And you're flying around with the Falcon.
You left your memories to create all of your
Oh. That's without a beer.
Justin,
No beer there.
you have to follow up that with your Toy Story.
I don't have one.
Yeah.
Nothing like. There's no following that.
Are
you kidding me?
On after Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
No, that's
I
the.
play somebody while we're
so
walking out.
Yeah.
That's Old Lang Syne starts playing now. We're,
It's
it's the end of Wonderful Life. There's no scene after that. You know what I mean?
So I'm so thankful to
Don't
my
bring it up.
girls and you guys because you really thank you.
That was all them, man.
No, it was, you guys made it.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm glad we had it, but you guys were the thoughtful ones that not to get too weepy on this thing, but like, you the fact that you have an awesome father inspired an awesome thing to happen. So
Justin, tie it up how really that show connects exactly to your story and
Well, that's-
about what it's all about, the toys that made us.
That-
and I think that
story is exactly it. That story is exactly, he grew up playing with those toys. The toys that we had as kids are our childhood memories. You know what I mean? Even if we're not realizing it, we're playing with them.
Yeah.
He had his own kids that he had to make childhood memories for, right? And you to make money
That's
to
a movie.
then I assume it was the last of your childhood toys, or at least the ones that were worth something enough to you gave them a Christmas. They grow up, realize that this nostalgia thing is a thing, and they gave you back the childhood memories. It's beautiful. I mean,
It really is.
we were going to talk about some
I don't even know.
some rare Star Wars figures and stuff. I don't think we need to. Maybe
Close with that,
yeah.
man.
The feeling of that story is exactly why stores like this exist. And people like us do what we do for the most part. I mean, there's some crotchety old dudes that do what we do that don't have any feeling with it whatsoever. So as long as I can appreciate that these things happen, I'm going to continue doing this.
Yeah,
The moment that somebody tells me that story and I'm not moved by it, it's over. Yeah. And then we just call somebody and say, "Hey, you want to be partners in the store? We're going to semi-retire." All right, so we're going to do another episode in a few days. I think the second episode, anybody know?
Second episode is Barbie.
Barbie. All right.
Yeah.
It might be the same crew. It might be different crew.
And we may or may not have some surprise. Put the camera on me, man. We may or may not have some surprise guests. Being in our industry, we know some of the folks that were interviewed on some of these. You guys, if you saw that episode, you may have seen Kat from Comic Trips being shown up there. You may have seen Mark Palomo, who's a friend of ours, who writes books and talks all about all this nostalgia. Dave Vonner, who was a sculptor for Marvel and a toy designer, is a friend of ours. So hopefully we're going to be getting one of those folks up on one of these episodes coming up. And
cool.
yeah, it's going to be...
Barbie's going to be a lot of fun because there's a lot of cultural stuff going. 1959 Barbie's not today's Barbie, as it should not be.
Don't ask me. I'm just a girl.
And Barbie's probably going to be the oldest
a lot of fun,
of the toy lines they're talking about.
59.
So, a couple days, we'll post beforehand. Thank you all for checking and watching. Watch this video, and in the comments of this video, give us your toy story.
Give us your toy story.
We'd love to read some of that stuff.
Toys that made us.
And Alex said, have Frank tell his story about when Foss Company was closing, the Transformers.
Oh, yeah, Foss. Okay. You want me to throw that?
All right,
we were leaving.
We'll save that for the Transformers episode.
Yes.
All right?
The Foss Transformers.
Force Transformers.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Here's to us.
Here's to life, liberty, and the pursuit of plastic.
That's it.